Welcome to Wisdom of the Elders with Ifetayo and Efunlayo on Awakening Airways. Welcome. It is with honor that we share insights from what we've learned in life through the system of Reiki and other traditions rooted in our ancestry.
As we all know, healing extends back to the origins of existence and is woven into the fabric of all creation. As elders, we've unlocked many of the wisdom keys, both practical and deeply spiritual, that we will share on this podcast to support the beautiful generations of healers that are now working their way towards eldership. Enjoy.
Thank you. Hello, and welcome to Awakening Airwaves, Wisdom of the Elders with Iya Ifetayo and Iya Efunlayo. Today's topic will be the practice of honoring our ancestors and our Reiki lineage. Hi, I'm Efunlayo and one of the co-hosts of Wisdom of the Elders. We're so happy that you chose to join us today for this wonderful topic. And I'll start off by introducing myself as a Reiki Master teacher, as well as a retired educator, a mother, a grandmother, and also a priestess in an African spiritual practice. My sister?
Yes, thank you, beautiful Iya. I am Iya Ifetayo. I live on St. Helena Island, South Carolina, the home of my hearts, originally from Washington, D.C. And I too am a Reiki elder and Reiki teacher in my community, also Reiki practitioner. I continue to see clients. Um, Also a grandmother, a mother of two adult daughters, a grandmother of two growing adult, about to be adult grandchildren. Um, and we welcome you to sit with us during this time, prayerfully to enjoy sitting with us, enjoying the conversation, and perhaps receiving some gifts from our time together.
Awesome. So, to start out, just to talk a little bit about why one would consider the practice of honoring our ancestors. We all have ancestors. That's how we got
Mhm.
here. And so that's the first thing. And the blessing of honoring your ancestors is that you get to celebrate your lineage. You get to celebrate the people that brought you forth into this incarnation. And as a person who's been practicing ancestor reverence for many years, just to share a little bit about what it means to me, I came up in a family where, especially on my father's side, there was a huge family that was very connected, and they were always coming together around different celebrations throughout the year. And at least once a year or once every other year, we would visit with family who lived out of town and of course had big family meals and gatherings. And I loved listening to the stories that the elders would tell about how they grew up and the different experiences and talking about those who had passed on, their ancestors. So I learned so much rich history that as a child and growing up. And then when I was in my early 20s, a couple of my cousins who were really into genealogy invited me to join a committee that they had started where I was introduced to making the family tree and collecting the stories and things. And it was just fascinating to me because it helped me to understand myself. It helped me
Mhm.
to see myself in these people. We all recognize that we walk and talk like some of our ancestors, that we inherit many physical traits, some very good traits and some not so good traits that we have to work on. But we also inherit the energy of those individuals
Mhm.
that makes us be drawn to certain characteristics in our personality, to whether we are someone who loves to study different topics, someone who's drawn to art, someone who's drawn to dance, or someone who's drawn to science. Those are things that are in our DNA that are passed down through all the thousands and thousands of years. And so when we express ourselves, we're also expressing all of those who made up what the DNA that we carry today. And so, in honoring that, we get to honor and explore the depths of who we can become, who we are, and what we can develop. We also get to accept that sometimes we may not be able to do some of the things that we aspire to the heights, because that's not a part of the energy that we were born with, that we inherited. Not that we can't enjoy it and explore it for ourselves. And so lineage ancestry is very important for many reasons. We also know and understand in today's world that we inherit our characteristics of our health. And so it's important to understand those aspects, what things were passed down in the lineage in terms of our health, so we know how to care for ourselves so that we can live strong and healthy and long. And so there's such a wide, vast array of things that to be mindful of in ancestry. But also we understand that in studying and honoring our ancestors, the wisdom that we can learn from listening to the stories about them, the decisions they made and why they made those decisions. It's important to understand that our ancestors give us our cultural understanding about what culture we were born into. They help us to understand the kind of ethics that we inherit in a family. What was important to these people? Was caring for the elders important? Was caring for the children important? Were they people who were honest and true and practice a belief system that they passed down because it gave them strength and courage and things of that nature? So there's so many different things that we learn from our ancestors besides just who they were and where they lived, where they came from. It's vast, and it can be so empowering to us if we tap into that understanding. And so not only do we look like them and sometimes act like them, we inherited that energy that makes the ancestor wisdom and their understanding of who they were, the kind of people they were in their community, so vitally important to helping us understand who we are. So lineage has become very important to me from all of those perspectives. And also, it helps me to be able to hold myself accountable to what kind of legacy I inherited and what kind of legacy am I leaving.
Mhm. Beautiful. Thank you, my sister. And I'd love to continue this conversation, um, uh, just piggybacking and picking up on what our beautiful sister Efunlayo shared with us. And I want to move into the honoring of our lineage ancestors. We all know, hopefully, and have the names of those folks who went before us. And I too honor ancestors. I honor my family ancestors. I've learned so much from them, about them, and about myself through my learning of them. So when I became Reiki and was shared the names, beginning with Spirit all the way down through Master Usui, Dr. Hayashi, Mrs. Takada, and from that point, our lineages all split because the family tree under Mrs. Takada split. So we all might have similar or different ancestry from that point on. I could feel the presence and the strength of those who went before me, as I read their names. And as I learned in, particularly in Reiki 1, the history of Reiki, and as I grew in my Reiki journey, taking it upon myself to learn more about particularly Master Usui, Dr. Hayashi, and Mrs. Takada. So the honoring of the wisdom and the gifts of wisdom, of fortitude, of courage, of strength, particularly that these earlier ancestors held for us, and then pouring down through the lineage all of those qualities through the students and teachers, ancestors of ours, who have carried this knowledge and wisdom and has shared that with us. So some of our lineage might still, some of the Reiki teachers on our lineage might still be embodied, and those are, for me, they also carry particular energy. And then we have those who are no longer embodied, but they are in spirit and just as present, and even more so. Is my experience. Those who are no longer embodied, some of my Reiki lineage who are still embodied, I don't have a contact with. I don't see them. They were teachers of my teachers of my teachers, and back to Mrs. Takata. And so, um, and some of them I no longer, I have never met, and no longer, and no, and do not see currently. But I still feel the strength of them, the
Okay.
strength of them as they uh, are standing beneath the ancestors on our lineage, our Reiki ancestors on our Reiki lineages who have gone before. Um, so for me, acknowledging, holding, and honoring our lineages as such, as beloved ancestors, as spirits who are ever present for us to call on in our Reiki practice, in our Reiki lives, the same as we might call on our family ancestors. Those Reiki ancestors are still present for us to draw wisdom from, to draw strength from, to draw guidance from, to draw provision from and protection from, as we would with any of our family ancestors. We get, as a beloved sister, Ia, said, we get to know ourselves through our Reiki lineage. We know those who've gone before us because of the stories that we have gathered from our most recent Reiki teachers on our lineage, to those, of course, that we know from the history of our early Reiki ancestors. So, so that is my particular sharing at the moment, and we will have a discussion at this point. Relative to honoring the practice of honoring ancestors in Reiki and in our lives.
Thank you for that. You know, it's so powerful how things work together because in my Reiki instructor in the first level one class gave us a prayer that I still use to this day because it had such meaning to me because of that former experience of working with my own personal ancestors. And that prayer that she gave, it states, "Dear Dr. Usui and all available Reiki Masters, please assist me in becoming a pure channel for loving Reiki energy and provide me with the protection that I need." And it's such a simple prayer, but it is so powerful
Thank
because by
you.
calling on the spirit of Dr. Usui, the founder of our line of lineage, it taps you in. And I tell you, every time I say it, I feel it, you know.
Yes.
And I'm grateful to the spirit that walks with him, that he followed his destiny on the path and the journey and went through everything that he went through to connect with the Reiki energy because he could have not. He
Yes.
had the choice in that moment on top of the mountain. He was like, wait a minute, what is this? He could have said, oh no, and run.
Yes.
He did not.
Yes.
And he embraced it. And not only did he embrace it when he had the opportunity to just keep it to himself and to his family, he didn't. He decided to share it and
Mhm.
begin to teach. And that's how we have it today. And so, because he passed it on, and so when we call on the energy and the power and tap into that, because I truly believe that our spirit, our life force never dies. And so, that energy that
Yes.
was once inhabited a body that was called Usui, Mikau Usui, it
Mhm.
lives on in the
Mhm.
universe, right?
Yes.
And so, we can tap into that field of energy, that power to help us in our own lives with our Reiki, just like we can tap into the energy and power of our physical
Mhm.
ancestors, our DNA ancestors for courage and strength. And so when it says in the prayer, and all other available Reiki masters, that
Mhm.
means any and all of them, we have access to their energy and power in the moment that we call on them to help us, whether we're giving Reiki healing to ourselves or to someone else. That is just mind blowing to me and
Yes.
so powerful, powerful, mind blowing.
I love
And
it.
with that prayer, it also states, and provide me with the protection that we need. And from my perspective, I see that as when we open up to the universe, when we open up to Reiki, we open a portal. And so there are all types of entities we know in the universe. We want only those
Mhm.
positive ones to come through. And so
Yes.
to me, the prayer is so perfect and so complete. And that's why I teach it to all of my students and I use it all these years. No matter when I'm doing my Reiki, I use that prayer because to me, it
Yes.
connects me with all the power that I have access to consciously by stating that before I begin.
I would love for you to repeat that prayer slowly so that anyone who might want to jot it down, or we
Sure.
can put it in the chat. I'm not tech savvy enough to know how,
I can
if we
try,
should
but
put it.
I'll say it slowly in case I don't get to that. And also,
Okay.
I will preface by saying that when I teach the prayer in my class, I invite the people, of course, that this is an option, as
Yes.
well as
Yes.
you can change the prayer to your own liking, because there are times when I alter it to call in my personal Reiki guide,
Yes.
which is a whole nother episode
Yes.
we'll get to one day. So the prayer goes as such. Dear Dr. Usui and all available Reiki masters, please assist me in becoming a pure channel for loving Reiki energy and provide me with the protection that I need.
Ashe. Amen. Thank you. Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
I want to
And
give thanks. I'll say my Reiki master teacher.
yes.
Her name is Reverend Raquel Ferguson, is
Yes.
my Reiki master teacher for all three levels that I started off with, and she's the one that taught me that prayer. And
Beautiful.
she learned that prayer from her instructor. So there we go with the
The
lineage.
lineage, that
Yes.
piece.
And also, I want to
Yeah.
add that as Ifetayo does, and I do the same thing, I was given my lineage when I receive each of my
Mhm.
certificates.
Mhm.
And I give that lineage also to my students to keep
Yes.
it going so that you can call on those. So I've never met those beyond my instructor,
Yes.
but she gave me those names. I don't have names going all the way back, but I use what I have.
Yes. Absolutely.
And when
And
I do Reiki 3 attunements, I also share with those students, it is your obligation to pass on to your students the lineage that they come from. And then
yes.
they can decide how they want to use that information.
And one of the beautiful things, as we know about Reiki and Reiki lineages, Reiki practices, schools of Reiki, there's a lot of freedom and openness and ability to follow our own inner guidance
Yes.
relative to how we want to share lineage, share the names of those Reiki ancestors. As I had shared with Ia as we were preparing for this call, my teachers um, ha both had given us our lineage names of on our certificates. So whenever I teach a level, the certificate that the students receive will have the names of the lineages on them, and then I ask that when they teach, that they add their names below mine, because I'm the last on the line of of our particular lineage. All of the Reiki teachers who have gone before them, and then they include themselves. So that is just the tradition of
Yes.
my lineage, and there are many ways, and
Yeah. Yes.
there's no right way, as long as we both feel I feel in agreement that as long as the names of those who have gone before us get presented to the students, particularly Reiki 3 students and all the students, so that we have that strength, that anchoring, that foundation, that we realize that we just did not spring up by ourselves. As,
Exactly.
yeah, and
And
that's
I
a
think there's power in the honoring,
yes,
power
yes,
in the acknowledgement of how we received information. I think that
mhm,
connects us to whatever was the impetus for those individuals to step into Reiki, because we all have our Reiki stories,
yes,
how
yes.
Reiki came into our lives, and honoring the energy of Reiki, that life force that brought each of us in, I think is another opportunity to tap into that understanding and that energy as well. Yeah.
I agree. I also am feeling in this conversation and what you just shared, that um, there is a way that in the Reiki world that some of us present ourselves as individuals. I mean, we are all individuals, we're all individual teachers, but there might be some feeling of in some of us that I am the one, I am it, I'm out there by myself, or I am that teacher, and not including in themselves the lineage, the those who went before us. We are not alone. We are not the individual teachers that recently, I think it's much more recent that this consciousness has grown. My world of Reiki has always been a community world.
Mine too.
From the beginning, it was community that, and in community that I met, that my friends were becoming Reiki. So all of my early experiences with Reiki was in community with friends who were becoming Reiki, and that just kept growing. So for me, I never, in all of these years, I've always felt not separate, not alone, that I was a part of
Yes.
something, of
Yes.
some others, that I
Yes.
belonged to these folks. And our lineages are the folks we belong to,
That's right.
actually,
That's right. It's
just as our
family.
family. Exactly.
We have
So, yes,
energetic DNA and we have our physical DNA.
yes. Isn't that the case?
Yes.
And and since we are energy workers, Reiki folks, then the tuning in to that energy, that feeling, feeling of support, feeling that I have under me um, folks whose shoulders I'm standing on. I
Yes.
am not
Yes.
alone. If I have questions of how to proceed in my practice, any questions, any needs, here I am,
Yes.
being with my ancestors, my Reiki ancestors, in addition to my familiar ancestors.
Yes. And that is so powerful to me because when we look at where Dr. Usui began and you look at Reiki today, there's so many different versions.
Yes,
How the life
yes,
of Reiki has grown and expanded.
yes,
That's like our family tree just growing, growing. It never became stagnant. It didn't die.
Right.
it lives on and it
Yes.
continues to evolve. And that to me is where the power is, that here we sit today in 2025 and we're here on the internet talking about
Yes.
this
Yes.
practice and how it has changed our lives, like it's changed so many millions of people's lives all over the planet. And you look at all the different ways that it has expressed itself, right there is telling you how powerful it is. And I
Yes.
just love the fact that we're not limited. It's not so rigid that it has to be done this way. It has its own life,
Yes.
and it continues to evolve. And so when I look at it from that perspective, in terms of how I was taught Reiki and given the freedom to learn it and then make it mine,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then how I teach it and how it has evolved, and I tell
Yes.
my students to make it yours.
Yes.
That's because just like when you look in the physical sense, you have parents that birthed you and they raised you in their understanding and told you to go forth and live your life, make it
Yes.
yours. It's the same thing. And
It
that's how
is.
it evolves. And that's why it's still alive and so powerful.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I love this whole conversation as I did our first conversation. I love these wisdom conversations from us who have been here for for quite a while in the Reiki world, in life and in the
Yeah.
Reiki world. One of the things I wanted to bring up in this moment, because I think we've all experienced this, were on the other side of this beautiful conversation is the attachment to lineage that
Mm,
I remember having experiences with some individuals in my Reiki life who where it mattered who was on your lineage, who was the person next under Mrs. Takata. It made a big difference to them, and it was a source of pride. It was a an ego attachment, is what I'm calling it now.
yeah.
They probably would not agree with me, but in the evolution of Reiki, this is an area that has been, I feel, asking for evolving um, and evolution. So I'm going to have to take a sip of coffee.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Take your time. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I think that um, the changes I have seen too, it's not so much that attachment, it's more about the acknowledgement,
Hmm.
and it is a pride because I'm proud to be
Yes,
a Reiki healer, and proud to be a Reiki instructor. But at the same time, we looking at from a cultural perspective, we do want to be proud and we do
yes,
want to uplift, but we
yes,
also have to remember that we are Reiki,
yes,
not the inventors of the Reiki. Reiki is
yes,
for source energy. No
yes.
one
And
owns it. And that's part of what Dr. Usui's message was, not the ownership of Reiki. Because
yes,
when you look in historically, he did never claim that he invented anything.
no, no, he never
And there
did.
were other systems of hands-on energy healing that existed. It,
Yes,
so when we have to remember those things as well, and with all the different systems of Reiki that have come about, they all came about because they have their own aspect of life force
yes,
that none of us can claim that we invented anything. So the ego has no place in there. And even those who may have felt alone in their Reiki journey, if that's your path, you'd walk that path for a while. And when my Reiki instructor, I lost touch with her for a number of years,
hmm
but I still had a semblance of community
hmm
with the people that I met through her. And I met her when she had her own metaphysical center here
hmm
where I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so when she closed that center, I had met other people through her. And for a while, I worked out of another metaphysical center where everybody was Reiki healers. And so they became my new Reiki family, right?
Yes.
And so I was never totally alone. But then when I started teaching, when I started having clients and teaching, they became a part of my community as well.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
always have a way of connecting with people if we choose to. But
Yes.
there may be times in our lives in general and in our Reiki walk where you may be seemingly walking alone.
Yes.
I don't know
Yes.
if I said seemingly, you're never alone, but you
Absolutely.
will feel that. And that to me, when I have been in those spaces, it was a time when I was challenged in my life in general. And
Hmm.
since Reiki is ingrained in my life, to be introspective
Hmm.
about what does Reiki
Yes.
mean to me? How
Yes.
am I going to, show
Yes.
up in my life along with everything else that I am and my Reiki? So there have been times when, that is who I express myself to be,
Hmm.
not feeling alone or lonely, but just, it's a reflection time. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, quite.
Yeah.
I think for and for myself, I've had the same experience, and many of us probably have, where we have been guided to go in more, to reflect more about our Reiki journey, our Reiki practices. Who are we? Relative to Reiki, and so yes, there are those times of solitude, I call them, that are really a gift in a lot of ways, and to balance the our lives in Reiki.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, this podcast or this um the whole platform that we are a part of, thanks to beautiful Yolanda Williams,
Yeah.
is a community. It's another Reiki
Absolutely.
community. So even if we don't have those physically around us that we practice with or share with, or if we don't have a community of students who we've taught, then we have now these podcasts, these platforms that we can join, and often there's a component of community, of chat, of sharing, of exchange. So uh,
Absolutely.
no one needs to be alone in their Reiki journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all here to connect in whatever way and time. I remember there have been several times over the years since I started my Reiki journey where I stepped away from it, you
Yes.
know, where I
Yes.
stepped away from it for myself for very brief periods of time in terms
Hmm.
of my own personal healing,
Hmm.
but more so in terms of there have been times when I said, I'm not going to do clients right now. Or even
Yes.
I would
Oh,
think,
yes.
I don't want to do clients.
Yes. I know that one.
I have stepped
Yes.
away. I don't want to teach Reiki
Yes.
or I'm, leaving that behind. But it always came back to me.
Yes.
It would not leave me alone. And
Yes.
over time, I learned the signs of it. I have one experience I'll share is I have a dear friend, and we were walking partners for a number of years. And we would walk twice a week, right? And so she was on my case, I want you to teach me Reiki 3. And I'm like, no, I'm not teaching Reiki anymore. I'm not doing, but I want you. I said, I can refer you to somebody. And she says, no, I don't want you to refer me to somebody. I want you. She cared for me for months, not weeks, but months. And
Yes.
then some other things happened, and I realized that Reiki was calling me back. Like,
Yes.
what are you doing?
Yes.
What are you
Yes.
doing? This is your dear friend. And she's saying that her spirit is telling her, you're to teach
You're
her this. And
yes.
you're telling Reiki no, that
Right.
you're not going to do this. And I had to really do some soul searching. So I said to her, I said, okay, look, you took level 1 and 2 from someone else. So what I need so that we're on the same page, because I'll explain why I did this. I said, take Reiki 2 from me, and then I'll think about doing Reiki 3 for you.
Yes.
Reiki 3 for you. She said, okay, no problem. I said, okay. And I also told her I had stepped away from teaching Reiki. I can't just jump back in.
Hmm.
I have to go back in the way I need to go back, and I have to go
Yes.
back into study, and I have
Yes.
to go back in to reframe myself
Hmm.
so that, I can be ready for the responsibility that I'm taking on by saying that I'm going to teach and attune you and others again. I can't,
Yes.
like, from one day to the next, like, turn it off and turn it on. That just doesn't work for me. So she said, okay, whatever you need, as long as it takes. And when she said that, I said, okay, I get it. Reiki was challenging me to step up to the plate, that
Hmm.
I had a mission that I was neglecting, not a conscious mission that I had accepted to be this
Yes.
healer, teacher, person. And
Yes.
that experience changed everything for me, because during that experience of preparing to go back into teaching, which I can't remember how long I had stopped teaching, and to also not just teach Reiki level 2, but Reiki 3 is a whole nother ball game.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Preparing to teach Reiki 3 again, it gave me a whole new depth of understanding of what Reiki meant in my life.
Yes.
And that's why it came through my friend, because
Yes.
I was having a hard time telling her no, and she wanted to know why. And I knew that that was spirit coming to me like, so you're a teacher, so why aren't you teaching? And that shifted a lot from me. And so from then, it's been a steady movement forward, even though there were times when I slowed it down, but I hadn't stopped because I got the message. The spirit of Reiki was telling me this is part of your contract
Yes.
into this incarnation, is to learn, not only learn Reiki for yourself, but to teach Reiki, because as long as you're teaching Reiki, you cannot be disconnected
Yes.
from the
Absolutely.
use of it for yourself.
Yes. I love that. I love what you shared. And it so resonates with me also because, as a lot of folks know, one of my favorite sayings is Reiki has its way with you. And that's the spiritual part of Reiki and
Yeah.
the ancestral part of Reiki, I believe, because in my ancestral beliefs and traditions, I believe that I'm a tool. I'm a that my ancestors can use me. They can use me
Yes.
for the good, to fulfill my destiny as someone who is here to heal and to uplift and to teach folks who they truly are.
Yes.
So I feel the same about the Reiki ancestry. They have a purpose for us. They when I say Reiki has its way with us, that once we open that door, that portal, crack it a little bit, then they move in and they will use our friends, they will use our associates to steer us into the divine plan, more deeply into
Absolutely.
the divine plan.
Absolutely.
Um,
Because I didn't see it as that for myself to the degree that
yes,
Reiki showed me, because I just didn't,
yes,
and I also feel that, um, and this comes out of my own spiritual practice understanding of, when we're born into a family line,
yes,
there are things within that are agreements that are made, energetic connections that are made that help us understand why we came, what is the purpose, what
yes.
is our destiny based on that connection. And so I've grown to see the same thing
Mhm,
within Reiki as a
mhm.
result of having, thinking I'm putting it down, not to pick it back up,
Yes,
and wind up picking
yes,
it up. The same is true in family lineage and our
yes,
physical manifestation of family as humans, is that there are traits that we inherit there that we wind up playing. It's just like you wind up one day and you say, wait a minute, I'm talking like my mom, or I'm
yes.
talking like my mother,
Yeah,
from the influence of that connection.
exactly.
And so we inhabit that energy,
Yes,
and it inhabits us. And so we don't have any real control over how that's going to play out. And so, just briefly, I'll touch on this. I learned, because I think I did my Reiki level 3 was in 2007 or something like that. And so I've been on the Reiki journey for a while, and it's just recently, a couple of years ago, in understanding, doing some past life work, that I found out that the energy that brought me to Reiki is actually one of my DNA ancestors.
Ah,
And that was just like, you're telling me what? You
yes,
know, that it goes back generations and
yes,
generations before we even can think about, because
exactly.
laying on of hands, healing, and ministry as a part of my physical
Yes,
my physical lineage in my
yes.
family, going back millennia, just from family history stories as well as DNA. And so I found out that there's a connection there
Mhm.
that brought forth. When we have our episode on spirit guides, I'll talk more about that. But there's no mistake of how these things come about.
Absolutely. No
No
mistake.
mistake how they come about.
I
It's all divine intervention.
all divine. I truly believe that and live that. I probably just said that yesterday to someone. I know that this is not a mistake. There are no mistakes. There are no accidents
No.
and there are no mistakes. And one of I praise Reiki really for bringing me deeper and deeper into that knowing and that understanding because of the practice. I mean, we get to witness, we get to be a part of, we witness our own lives um and the synchronicities and the putting togethers, the meeting the people and all of the things. And we have the gift and blessing of witnessing our clients and our students, their lives, and this whole piece in my own journey, which I've shared this story again many times. I had not planned to be a Reiki teacher. That was not my plan. I was a
Either.
massage therapist. So I was drawn to the touch healing arts. A- And as a child, my mother had always said to me, you're going to be a teacher. And I don't know if it was because my mother said it or I believed this. I was adamant I was never going to be a teacher. I just was not. That was not a part of my plan, even though I'm the oldest of many cousins and of four siblings, probably numbering 36, 37, something like that.
Wow.
I was always teaching. I always set up little classrooms and had, I, that's what I did, but I never felt a calling to teach. So even when I was offered Reiki 3, I wasn't interested because I didn't feel as though I was going to teach. And as Reiki had it, and as the Reiki ancestors who knew the divine plan all along, who probably were working with my mother and and all of my family ancestors who saw me as a teacher, um, what has transpired effortlessly, I would have to say,
Yeah.
it just unfolded this way,
Yeah. That's
even
who you
though I
are.
resisted
Yeah.
initially. Here
Yeah.
I am. Yeah,
And I
so
think
many years later.
sometimes we resist things, because I do a lot of that, have done a
Uh-huh.
lot of that, is because we don't see it, and we don't see the connection to us in the
Yeah.
moment.
Yes.
Um, and because I come from teachers in my family lineage,
Yes.
and I aspired to be a teacher. I went to school for education, but it didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to turn out, because the first year I taught school, by December, I was like, I cannot do this. I could not be in the same room
Yes.
with these four walls, with these same little faces every single day. It was
Yeah.
driving me insane. But I'm not a quitter, so I said I'll finish the school year.
Yes.
But the dream I had of being a classroom teacher, I cannot do this. And so I went through some other different iterations of my way of being an educator. And then I said, okay, I'm going to give it one more try before same thing happened. I taught school, signed up to teach school for by Christmas break. I was like, I can't. It was too, the children were wonderful. That wasn't
Yes,
the issue.
yes,
What it was is being confined to a space and being
yes,
confined to a curriculum. I needed
yes,
more freedom than that.
yes,
And the same routine every single day was
yes,
driving me insane. So,
yes,
fortunately, the way things were set up for me, I discovered that there's so many other ways to teach. And
yes.
so I was liberated from that, stayed in education, but did so many different ways. And so I think in terms of when we come up upon things in our life where other people see aspects of us in an iteration, it's not necessarily anything that we can imagine it's going to be. It usually isn't, you know,
Absolutely.
because it evolves if we allow it to into
Yes,
something else. Because even with my Reiki, it has that viewpoint that I learned from those early experiences of thinking I was supposed to be a classroom teacher, helped me to think outside the box,
yes,
in terms of how I was doing things. So even though I start off, of course, before we had, all this Zoom and everything, as teaching Reiki in person, it
yeah,
was never where you just sit, read and repeat, follow, do what I do. It was never
yes,
that. And
that,
then
yes,
when internet things came about, it was like, oh, I could never teach Reiki online. Well,
right, right.
you know,
Same here. I know.
the pandemic hit and then boom, there we were,
Well,
people calling, oh, I need Reiki, I need Reiki. And so you adapt and you do what you need to do. But it's always about just allowing the energy to flow.
yes,
Yeah.
allowing the energy to flow.
Allowing the energy to flow. Let it do what it wills to do because it's going to do it anyway.
It's going to do it
And we can
anyway. And
resist if we want to.
surrendering to that energy flow is the request, I believe, because it is going to do the you're going to be we're on a path. We're
Yeah,
on a path, and there is a divine purpose for our lives. So that has got to be fulfilled.
yeah,
And we have free choice. We have the gift and the power of choice, which was given us as human beings. So we always have the option of a slow or a quicker journey, depending on how we exercise our choices.
exactly.
So my choice to say no to Reiki 3 initially, even I said no to Reiki 1 and 2, I must confess. It was my choice, but it was not the divine plan.
Exactly.
And
Same
so,
here. I was not interested. Like I
no,
would go to Reiki circles and I'd had Reiki healing, but learn
yes.
Reiki, I'm like, what for? I don't need
That
to
was
do that.
exactly
Yeah.
that was my phrase. What for? I for 10 years enjoyed receiving Reiki from my friends who had were becoming Reiki in the 80s, and they were also eager to share, and I was also eager to receive, but I did not see a reason for me. I had childhood experiences of
Yeah.
touching my grandparents, particularly, who received my touch in such a beautiful way. I continued to touch them. I would rub their feet. I would rub their backs. I would rub their heads. And I was 4 or 5 before I started school, and that always gave me a sense of satisfaction that my touch could be received, and there was something about it that made people feel better. But then as continuing to grow on um and having a grandmother, the same grandmother who we lived with, who was very much into herbal preparations and cod liver oil and castor oil and all the
Yeah.
oils, fish oil. And my mother, who was a teenager when I was born, who wanted to be very modern, she was dissuading me from following my grandmother's lead. But I, being my grandmother's child, anything she said or did, I was right there with her. So and in hindsight, I know that this was because I was so young. obvious to me when my spirit returned, it returned with memories of those gifts that I had already honed at some other lifetime. So, but the encouragement of others in my family to really study and use my mind and grow in that way, I did. I did that, and I'm grateful for my mind, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that were open to me um, in my early years as an adult and my professions at that time, but I found my way back. I found my way back to hands, to
Yeah.
touch, and and from that point, became certified in reflexology and other touch healing modalities, and went to massage school, and the rest is history. But I can look back now and see this plan and this path,
Yeah.
and I'm oh so grateful. And I want to bring up at the end of this little piece of the conversation, I want to ask you, Ia, about listening, about being open to the guidance of ancestors, about being sensitive to how the messages might come, about being aware that we are receiving guidance from our ancestors, from our family ancestors. And do we listen? Do we listen? Are we aware that that's going on? And I want to encourage us all, everyone who watches this podcast, to to have this as a takeaway, that your ancestors are in communication with you. And so I want to
Absolutely.
ask you about that.
Yes, thank you for that. As I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate that in my family to be connected to many of my family, extended family members,
Mhm,
elders. I didn't know consciously any of my grandparents.
mhm.
Come from both my parents were the babies of very large families. So my
Yes,
grandfathers were gone, but
yes.
both grandmothers were alive. They both died the same year when I was like around two and a half.
Ah,
And I have no conscious memory of one, but only one conscious memory of the other.
hmm.
And the reason I say it that way is that, we have memories that have been planted in us by the
Yes,
stories that people tell. And so
yes.
I searched my memories and I have that one memory that is mine of my maternal grandmother, but I have many stories that have been told
Mhm,
to me about her. And so when I came into the understanding of ancestor reverence, as a part of my coming into African spiritual understanding, ancestry is the foundation of all of
mhm.
that. The same as
Yes,
in Japanese culture, I
yes,
will say,
yes, yes,
um, which helps us with understanding the lineage part of our Reiki heritage.
yes.
So, with that understanding, we are the ancestors. We believe in reincarnation, that you can be born back into the same family line many times
Mm-hmm.
over. And the reason for that is that each family group has a legacy, and that
Yes.
legacy has to be fulfilled. And many times, your individual destiny is to come back into that family line, be reborn in different iterations to fulfill that
Mm-hmm.
legacy, to fulfill
Hmm.
that destiny. And in doing so, you have the support of all of the ancestors of that line going back to the beginning, because we know we
Yes,
all come from one ancestor and then
yes.
branch out. And so I liken it when I teach ancestor reverences that consider yourself that you're on a track team, a relay
Mm-hmm.
team, and you're in this big stadium, and the stadium is filled with thousands, 30, 40,000 people, and all of them are spirits of your ancestors. And you're on the relay team, and you're down there, the baton is in your hand, and you're running, and they're cheering you on and cheering you on because they want to see you do well. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you get ready to pass that baton on to that person, the way you were taught to do by the coaches and everybody and in your practices, they are cheering that you have got it and they're
Yes.
sending you energy. You've got
Yes.
it. And that the person you're passing it on to is also in your family line. And they've been tutored and they've been coached and they're cheering them on too. So when you pass that baton, there's no way you're going to drop it.
Yes.
And so they're fully
Yes.
invested in you.
Yes.
And so they're speaking to you in your dreams. They're speaking to you through your intuition. They're supporting you in every aspect of
Mhm.
your life. And many people can sense and feel and hear them audibly,
Yes.
see
Yes.
you. Others
Yes.
of us just feel the energy, and others of us are not as consciously aware of their
Right.
influence, but it's always there. You are
Yes.
never, ever alone because they have a vested interest in
Hmm.
your success in life. They have a vested interest in what it is that you came in with your unique energy field to fulfill within that family line
Hmm.
and to keep it going. And so, with that understanding, it allows me to first and foremost know that I'm not by myself, that I do have a realm of ancestral energies that are protecting me and
Yes.
supporting me, and that they have this commitment to me and my destiny because it's connected to them. And
Yes.
even everything that I do for myself, whether it's intellectual or spiritual, and especially with healing, when I
Mhm.
heal myself,
Mhm.
I'm healing them.
Yes. Absolutely.
Whatever aspects
Yes.
they have, whether it's trauma,
Yes.
whether it's insecurity, whether it's fear and doubt from whatever source, when I heal myself, I'm healing them. And I can send healing to my ancestors as
Hmm.
well. When I am healing myself, I'm healing those who are going to come after me.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's like this circle of life, you know,
Yes. I
this
love it.
comprehensive thing. So even when I may be in my head, feeling alone in my ego, I'm not alone.
Yes.
So I will, with that understanding, my practice includes giving honor to my ancestors every single day
Yes.
and asking for their support so
Yes.
that it's a thing real becomes stays real and tangible to me every single day. And so when I look at it from that perspective, I understand that the ancestors are real and that one day I will be an ancestor again, and prayerfully we'll be born back into the same family line to finish what I came here to do.
Hmm. Yes.
And it gives you this sense of connection beyond anything I've ever experienced
Yes.
before. And by giving honor to my ancestors every single day, it reinforces that connection every single day. And that's one of the reasons when my Reiki master teacher gave me that prayer, it connected with me so deeply because, oh, wow, I get it. So you mean I have an ancestry in the Reiki healing line as well?
Yes. Yes.
That was just like, whoa, you can't ask for anything better than that. So that whenever I step forward to lay my hands on myself for healing, I'm not only working with my ancestors from my DNA, I'm also connecting to the ancestors of Dr. Usui and all those that he taught and those that came before him that
Mhm.
saw fit that he did stepped into
Yes.
his role to fulfill
Yes.
his destiny. I've got all of that working for me.
Yes. Yes.
So even in my darkest hours, I have to like, okay, snap out of it. Get a grip. Come on now. You got all the help and support. Give yourself your pity party for 3 minutes and then get up and do something. And
I,
so I just love it so much because, before I came into that true understanding of that I have all of this spiritual connection through my DNA ancestors and my Reiki DNA, that I don't have to ever worry about
yeah,
anything because even my errors are correct, because
absolutely.
I'm learning as I teach, I'm learning as
Yes.
I live.
Yes.
And if I perceive myself as making a mistake, then I hold myself accountable. Okay, so what did you learn? You
Yes.
and hold yourself accountable. So,
Absolutely. I love everything you said, of course, and I love how I can, and we can just pick up what you said about family ancestors and bring it over to the Reiki world. I just feel that we have a purpose on the Reiki lineage to keep to keep it alive. You
yes,
know, that Master Usui did not, I don't believe, well, even though he was from a culture that held ancestry, I'm not sure how much farther he could see beyond himself and those that immediately taught. But we are the ones we've been waiting for. We're the ones he's been waiting for. We're the ones all of our ancestors have been waiting for to continue the
that's
work, to
yes,
continue the healing backwards and forwards on our families and our lineages. That to continue to speak the names of our lineages and our ancestors, calling them forward, and that trust piece that they are always present and that we cannot make a mistake. That part,
great.
I remember in my Reiki 1 training, in or Reiki 3 training and passing attunements, one of the teachings that my teacher brought forth is that you don't go back if you know you made a mistake while you're attuning what you call a mistake, you forgot to do something, don't go back to correct it, that it's being corrected by the Reiki
Yes,
ancestors.
yes,
Did you learn that also?
yes, I did.
Yes.
Yes,
So I'm all right. I'm all right with that. And I love how you brought it forward about life. And the support of the precept just for today, I will not worry. I will be grateful for all my many blessings. And because we're standing on the shoulders of some powerful
right.
folks. We
That's
would
right.
not be here if they did not have a strength and a courage and perseverance, and that we could be embodied and that we could be Reiki practitioners and teachers standing on the shoulders of our Reiki ancestry.
Absolutely. And you made me think of this one powerful thing that I was taught, and I pass on to many of my students, both in Reiki and other things, is that your responsibility is to learn your best and do your best.
Yes,
And when you do that, that's all you can be asked to
that's
do.
that's all you,
And when
yes,
you do that, the spirit guides that walk with you, whether they're ancestral guides or spirit guides that attach because of they have a purpose to support you in life, they will always
yes.
make it right. They will
Always.
always, so you cannot mess it up. But you have to do your part. You can't be half stepping.
Exactly.
You can be half stepping. They're not
Yes,
going to deal with that. But
yes,
if you are doing your absolute best and you have put in the work, you've done your due diligence in
yes,
study and in your practice, and you are have of good intent,
yes.
they will always step in and
Always,
make it right, make it right. I was
always,
about that, yeah.
without
And that I
fail.
believe in most aspects of our life, if we're
I
doing
do
it
too.
well, yeah. You
I
know,
chosen.
I was taught that in Reiki from level one. Don't worry about, oh my God, if I have my hands in the right place,
Right.
am I doing this?
That one
Is that
too.
the right chakra or whatever?
Yes.
No, no. If you have good intent, that's why
Yes.
we can relax and turn it over to them. And that's
Yes.
why, because
Yes.
of who I was, when that prayer was given to me, it's like when you connect in prayer with
Yes.
consciously with the spirit realm, then you got it. You
Yes.
got it because
That's
they
it.
got you. And
Yes.
so, whatever your background is on a spiritual level, say some kind of prayer or affirmative statement and statement of intention or
Mhm.
something whenever you're doing anything and that right there will connect you with energy that is going to sustain and guide you with whatever you're doing. And that to me is the governing principle of everything, where you don't feel like you can get into your ego and like it's me. No,
Mhm.
no, no, no. That's when you will fall.
That's when you,
That's will you will
yes.
when you will cause some kind of harm. But when you walk with all the power that is
Yes.
available to you
Yes.
consciously,
You
then
cannot.
you
You
can't,
cannot.
you
You
can't.
cannot fail. You cannot do harm. We're wrapped up. And don't you remember seeing these pictures, on uh, well, wherever we see pictures of all of these like energy people
Yes,
behind us, that
yes.
we're always, this is how it is. I mean, this is
That's
always the case.
reality. That's
That's the
reality.
reality. We have all of these ancestors and spirits, guides with us all the time. So the easing into no worry, no, having compassion for myself and others. The fifth precept, all of these are connected because I can have compassion for myself. I made a mistake, as the world calls it, or I skipped a beat, or I spoke out, whatever it is, but I know that my ancestors have me and they have the situation, and it will all, with the intention, as Ia brought up before, with the right intent and the connecting and trusting the energetic presence of all of my support, it will all be fine.
It
And
will.
I,
And we
yes,
just have to hold to that, even when we aren't feeling it. What does they say? Fake it
exactly.
till you make it.
Yeah.
If you can connect with that understanding,
Yes.
one of the prayers that I say every day is that help me to understand what is mine to understand and do for this day. I'm not worried
Yes.
about tomorrow or next
Yes.
week or whatever.
Yes.
Sometimes we get so hung up in like what's coming that we
Yes.
forget about where we are
Where,
right now. Is
yes,
that what is my destiny for today?
for today.
That's it.
Absolutely.
That's
Yes.
it. Because you're going to get all muddled up in your spirit and in your head worrying about everything else. Focus on the now and call on the support that you have access to, and you've got it.
And with that, I think we can close out our time because that's an intro to another segment just for today. I see that as being another beautiful conversation about the precepts and about the consciousness of just for today. It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful foundational piece of Reiki practice. Um, and if you have some parting words, yeah, that you want to
Well,
share.
I guess my parting word would be just this: be intentional,
Mhm.
you know,
Yes,
and be real.
yes.
Be
Thank
intentional
you.
and be real.
Absolutely, Ashe. Thank you so much for our sitting together again
Thank you. I
today.
always enjoy connecting with you.
Me
I hope
too.
our audience
Yeah,
enjoys the conversation that we get to have.
absolutely. And blessings to us all. And until we see you again in next month. So thank you so much for being
Thank
present.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.